So, an absolutely beautiful day. And this weekend, my wife and I have come to Athens, mainly to see friends, to do a little bit of shopping as well. And I just wanted to share shopping in Kifissia with you. Kifissia is a district in the northern suburbs of Athens. And in my opinion, in late May as it is now, probably one of the very nice places, very best places to come and relax on a Saturday as it is today, shop, enjoy cafe society, and hopefully for you experience a little bit of what non-tourist cultural life is like in Greece. You do get tourists up here, not that many. So let's have a look around. Hopefully you'll like what you see. It's going to be a very relaxed video, a little bit of commentary, a little bit of walking, and a little bit of shopping. So enjoy. So, Kifissia is a fantastic area in the northern suburbs of Athens. We're about half an hour on the metro here from central Athens, and we're about 150, 200 metres above sea level, which makes it a lot cooler than central Athens. It's 22 degrees here at the moment. It's midday on a Saturday in late May, and I would imagine probably in central Athens it's 26 or 27. And you can see you have pine trees here, you have a lot of greenery, a lot of shade and a lot of space compared to central Athens. And it makes this area hugely popular with the Athenians. It's actually, though, very, very difficult to film because you have this main thoroughfare, effectively, which we're walking along now, which runs through Kifissia. But as a shopping centre, it's a very large shopping centre. There are many shops here, and they branch off left and right from this avenue, which, at least in terms of continuity for this video, makes it quite difficult to film. But I'll do my best. So Kifissia, as I said, is in the northern suburbs, and it's a hugely posh place. It is. It's very expensive to live here. It's aspirational to live here, although some people would also say it's a little bit pretentious to live here. But I don't agree. I would love to live here. It's hugely expensive. Think €1,000,000 plus for an apartment, and houses are just unattainable. And it's popular because it's very vibrant. It's got a fantastic day and night life. And it's very, very well maintained. The council here really looks after the place, and it's got a lot of history. It was here during Roman times. It had, believe it or not, a siege here during the Second World War when the British RAF were based here and the Germans invaded Greece and besieged the RAF here before marching them off to a prisoner camp in northern Greece. And it's beautiful as a result of all of this history. The trees here are very old, very well maintained, and the streets and the pavements, unlike a lot of Athens, are very, very navigable. They're not full of potholes. We're going to take our first little branch off this main street just down here, because down the bottom here we have Kifissia Park. I've actually done a video on Kifissia and Kefalari previously, and if you're interested in the park and you're interested in Kefalari, which is another area really attached to Kifissia, have a look at that video. Kefalari is really about the nightlife, about the restaurants, about bars, about the nightclubs. Whereas Kifissia, where I am today, is very much the daytime place. It's about the shopping, it's about the cafes and the restaurants during the day. That's not to say you don't come here at night, of course you do. But Kefalari is probably the better place to go at night. But anyway, I digress. Down here we have three important things. At the end of this road we have the bus station, and I'll put in a quick shot of the bus station. Then we have the park, and I'll put in a quick shot of the park. And then beyond the park, we have the Athens Metro. So there are various ways you can get up here from Athens, particularly if you're a visitor. If you happen to have a hire car, you can drive, although I would not recommend it because parking in Kifissia is a nightmare. Even if you know the place, it's a nightmare, particularly on a Saturday, but any time of the day or week, to be honest. You could get a taxi, probably about €25 from central Athens each way, so €50, or you can get the bus, or you can get the metro. Now I would recommend getting the metro. Great line up here. You walk through this lovely park and up onto this street here, and there are some Roman ruins just on the right as you come across Kifissia Avenue, which is the major road down there, separating us from the park. So you might just want to stop and have a quick look at those. If you are visiting, should you arrive by metro, as I advise, you will arrive in this amazing station here at Kifissia. Absolutely beautiful, and it is Kifissia Station. And you'll exit here and then you're at Kifissia Station. You come across the road, you're faced with two options. You can either go up to the main shopping area up this road here, or, as I would recommend, instead of doing that, you come along here and enter into the park just here by this kiosk, and it's a much more pleasant way up to the main shopping centre. You enter into Kifissia Park here, and it's a beautiful park, as I hope you can see. There's a lovely little coffee shop here on the right. So if you're already thirsty and tired from the half-hour journey or so from Athens, from Syntagma or wherever you've come from, I would recommend stopping there just for 10 minutes for a quick refreshment before you continue on up this path to where the bus station is, where the taxi ranks are, and then across Kifissia Avenue, a big road, into the main shopping area. You exit the park up these steps here through these lovely gates. Reminds me that marble is ubiquitous and relatively cheap in Greece. And here, on this sort of lay-by, we have what I call the bus station. Numerous bus stops. You can get buses to most places in Athens from here. And then there's also a taxi rank just over there as well. But I suggest strongly that if you're here, you cross the roads at the official crossing points, because Kifissia Avenue here, which runs down to Syntagma Square, is very busy and very dangerous, and the cars go very fast along here. So, strongly advise you wait for the crossing signals. And up here on the right, in this white building here, we have some Roman tombs, which have been there for 2,000 years. I'm breaking my own rules here. But the traffic's so busy. So yes, we have the Roman tombs here that we'll have a very quick look at. And then we're back onto the street that Vargas is on, that we looked at earlier. And actually, although I haven't shown it yet, this street by Coffee Island to the right takes you up to Kifissia's Plaka, which is, in my opinion, likely the oldest part of Kifissia, and where I think the Roman village was, and where likely Kifissia's villa was, or Villa Kifissia, the residence of Herodes Atticus, because I haven't found exactly where it was, but it will be up on the hill. Some old Roman stones, or possibly Greek stones, because the Romans tended to build more in the fashion of this wall here, to be honest. This is probably, in my opinion, a Roman wall, as is this one here, but who knows. And here we are, back into the main shopping area, back into the shade of the trees, and back to Vargas. Now, as we come back up to the main street here, there are a couple of places I just want to point out to eat because they're relatively cheap. Relatively. There's Plaka here, which is a coffee shop, unsurprisingly. And next to it we have La Pastoria. They're both owned by the same group that happens also to own Goodies, which is opposite here. And all of these places are relatively good to eat. Goodies is a burger bar, Greek burger bar, equivalent to McDonald's, cheap. La Pastoria does, unsurprisingly, pasta and relatively good value and good price pasta. And then you have, if you want a cheaper coffee, sit Plaka. You also have here, and unrelated to them, Everest. And Everest is effectively a sandwich shop, although this is an Everest exclusive, because of course Kifissia is expensive and they can't just have an Everest, they have to have an Everest exclusive. You can see over here there's a patisserie, they're a global chain. I've seen them in Dubai. But we'll continue to walk down this main street, and because of the nature of this place, because it's smart, here we have some parking. I said parking's a problem, you can use parking here, and there are various parking places other than the street, but because Kifissia is so smart, well maintained, beautiful, it's very popular with rich Greeks, with celebrities, with politicians, and with expats whose companies obviously can afford for them to live here. And that's the kind of mix actually that you get here. Not everyone you see here on the street today is going to live here, although many of them will. A lot of them will have come up here just for the day to enjoy Kifissia. It's a little bit cooler up here. As I said, we're about 150, 200 meters up. I think when you get up to Kefalari, we're about 180 actually. So about 150 here. And you can see parking is always a problem. Look, double parking, triple parking here. There are private security firms here who are employed by the local council and the residents and will try to move people on. But in reality, double parking happens all the time. Now, I was walking around earlier just scoping out this video, trying to work out how I was going to do it. I noticed that there is a christening here, Greek Orthodox christening, and most children in Greece, I think, will still be christened into the Greek Orthodox Church, probably in about 4 to 6 months. There's a lovely little church here, and this is very different from Saturday and Sunday. Christenings are very much for families. You get the children here, and it's an affirmation effectively that you are part of Greek society. It shouldn't be, but I can tell you from experience, if you're applying for a visa, if you've either been christened into the Greek Orthodox Church or married in the Greek Orthodox Church, it makes the whole process an awful lot easier, and it really shouldn't, but it does. Now, Kifissia is not that common for tourists, but there are some tourist activities here. You can see here the horses, the carts, they'll take you around the beautiful streets here. And there is an area of Kifissia called Kifissia Plaka. We'll have a look at it in a few minutes towards the end of this video, once we've looked at the main shopping centre. I'm just going to go off to the side here, however, and just show you up here first, because as I said, you get these various side streets, which makes making a video very difficult for me. But this is actually one of the smarter areas. It starts off with this fairly 70s, 60s, 70s shopping centre, I guess, but then the shops up here become a lot smarter. So I just want to show you those and then come back down to the main street again. This is actually the route up to Kefalari as well. As I said, I'm not doing Kefalari today. Have a look at my video on Kefalari, which I did previously at the end of last year. So you can see more parking over here, underground parking in this instance. And as I said, we keep on going up here. There are lots of high street shops, for example, the ubiquitous Honda Centre, the beauty parlour for ladies here, very, very popular in Greece. And there are actually two of them here. But we keep on going up here and it just gets smarter and smarter. And I say up, we are going up at the end. So I'm not going to point out all the shops, but you will see there's loads of shops here, a few cafes, and it just gets so smart up here, it's ridiculous. Some of the shops up here are extremely expensive, branded shops. And then the shopping peters out and you have a 400-metre very genuine walk up to Kefalari and Kefalari Square. There are also lots, I mean there's one here, there's lots of beauty treatment places here. You can see here some beautiful shops here. And we begin to see some of the residences. There's Marks and Spencer here, about 40 Marks and Spencers in Greece for anyone who knows Marks and Spencers and is a little bit surprised by that. And we start to come up to apartments, cafes, etc. Inevitably, some of this has been hit by the global recession. There's still an awful lot up here which hasn't. And it's just a very, very pleasant, as you can see, experience here. You don't come here just to shop. You may come here to shop, but you come here to people watch. You come here to be seen as well. People will dress up to come here. And I'm not surprised because it's really beautiful up here. Quite smart shops. And we have a few old sort of 1970s residences on the other side. I wouldn't complain. I'd be very happy to own one of those. So let's turn around, let's go back down to the main street again and continue our little tour down there. So coming back down again to the main street, I'm just going to carry on down here and turn right. There are elections here this weekend. Tomorrow is election day in Greece. This is PASOK, the leader of PASOK, which is the Green Party. They for years used to be the dominant political force in Greece. Andreas Papandreou, for example, very famous politician here and globally in the 80s. But they unfortunately were in power during the crisis of 2007, 2008, 2009, when the country went bankrupt. And the country's never forgiven them. They'll probably get 6 or 7% of the vote now. And it's proportional representation here. So anyone who gets over 2.5% of the vote gets a representative or representation in Parliament, which means that there will probably be a second runoff. Although there was a bit of a scandal yesterday where one of the leading politicians of the main opposition, Syriza, said effectively that they're going to put taxes up for everyone. And everyone in the Syriza party said, no, we're not, that's a complete lie. But people here don't believe that because Syriza don't have the best reputation necessarily for telling the absolute truth. They were the people who held the referendum. I think it might have been in 2009, shall we leave the European Union or not? And everyone said, let's leave. And they ignored it. You can see smart cars here. I'm just continuing along here just to show you a few more of the shops along here, because it does peter out now along this central stretch of road that we've been on. And a very nice cafe there next to Espresso if you fancy. Someone perhaps a little bit quieter but of the highest standards. higher standards. More parking down here. And I'm just going to double back and turn left up here and just show you up here as well before we go to Kifissia Plaka. And you can see people here are very smart. As I said, they make an effort here. So here we are, we turn left, and just a few more shops and cafes up here. I hope you're getting a feel for Kifissia on a Saturday morning. I think it's fantastic. It's one of the reasons my wife and I will come up here at the weekend, because for us it's a bit of a drive from Peloponnese, where we spend most of our time. But you can see there's so much here. And we could go to Kalamata, obviously. I've got videos on Kalamata. Anyone who's watched what I do knows I go to Kalamata. But this is an alternative for us, and we like it a lot. It's not quite as close for us as Kalamata, but you can spend a very happy weekend here. Particularly if you've got friends you can stay with, etc. Or if you're here on holiday, you have hotels. You can even get a hotel up here. There are hotels up here in Kifissia. There's Theoxenia, for example. There's Kefalari Streets. There's the Y Hotel. There's Hotel de Roses. Probably actually in order of expense, Theoxenia is extremely expensive up in Kefalari, but only 400 meters from here. When I say expensive, I'm talking about 700-800 euros a night. Then you've probably got places like the Y Hotel and Kefalari Streets, who are about 150 a night, depending on the time of year and whether it's a Saturday or Sunday. And then you've got Hotel de Roses, which will be the cheapest, but it's still perfectly reasonable. They did it up for the 2004 Olympics. I'm not sure it's been done up since then, but the point is, should you wish to come up here and spend the night here, and you wouldn't be amiss doing so, I have to say. It's well worth it. If you want to get out of central Athens before perhaps you go off elsewhere, then a night in Kifissia and Kefalari is something I would recommend. You also have to get off the beaten track a little bit and just explore the alleyways in between these streets that run parallel effectively to the main street that I've been talking about, because you come across these lovely little cafes, and there are quite a few of them, and a few boutique shops as well. And if you don't explore, you just miss out on it. And you can see it's very picturesque. Amazing Starbucks actually for this. I don't really think much of Starbucks, but it's quite nice. It's not the only one that you can come to. And it's very easy geography to walk around, because everything's effectively on a grid pattern, although it may not seem like it, with the exception of the Kifissia Park area, which we'll look at in a few minutes, because in my opinion that was the oldest area in Kifissia. You can see beautiful old houses here. Fabulous old houses. And hugely expensive. Even this sort of thing, which would be considered old in Greece, is pretty expensive, I would suggest. Just lovely. Sorbet, if you wish, an ice cream. Ralph Lauren would be rather special. And as I said, you just have to explore these places. Here's La Pasteria to give you an idea of where we come back to. I suppose this crossroads, if you want a point for reference, this crossroads here is really the point of reference I would give you. It's the main thoroughfare through Kifissia, meeting the main road off Kifissia, down to the park, by A.B. Vassilis. Now I mentioned Kifissia's Plakas. Back up the other end of this long thoroughfare through Kifissia, we come up here, there are still shops up here, and then we turn right. Now I actually got engaged up here 23, 24 years ago. I think it might have been this building here, although it's changed considerably since then. But if we keep up here, you come to an area called Kifissia's Plakas, which is beautiful and quaint and quite old in its nature actually compared to the rest of Kifissia. And I would highly recommend, if you're visiting and you're coming up here, make an effort to come up and explore it. It's not huge, but not a lot of people come up here unless they know it exists. And it's well worth it because it's very different to the rest of Kifissia. You can see it starts here, little cafes and so on. And it's called Kifissia's Plakas, I think, because it has a very similar nature to the Plaka area of central Athens at the foot of the Acropolis, which is lots of little narrow streets, lots of old houses, little secret cafes that really people should go and explore and go to if they knew they existed. people don't. And I'm not going to tell you it's hugely brilliant. It's not. But what it is very different. And if you're here, I'd absolutely come up here. There are lots of little quaint cafes, little quaint shops. There are even some Roman ruins, which I'll just show you very quickly. Just on the left here, we have what looks like a park. So often in Greece, it turns out to be a lot more than that. It's not really a park. It's some Roman ruins. And believe it or not, the tomb, this area here covered with this roof, is a tomb. And there are lots of tombs in Kifissia because the Romans were here. There was a gentleman called Herodes Atticus. He actually built the Herodes theatre at the foot of the Athens Acropolis, but many of you who've visited have probably seen it. But he had a villa up here called Villa Kifissia. Kifissia at the time was a village, obviously 15 kilometres from the centre of Athens. But Herodes Atticus liked the climate up here. He was a favourite of Emperor Hadrian. Emperor Hadrian ruled from about, I think, the 1st century BC to about 1127 or something like that, and was Spanish. He wasn't actually Italian. He came here because of his love, effectively, for the Greeks and Herodes Atticus. But Kifissia itself became a very bohemian, artistic area in Roman times because of the association with Herodes Atticus. And I can just imagine that it would have been up on this hill, because the Romans liked to be up on hills. And although most of it's gone now, there are some ruins down the bottom which I'll put some shots in of as well. And I just, look, if you come here shopping, there are better places in Kifissia to go shopping. But if you're here, why wouldn't you come and explore where I think the original Kifissia was during Roman times? Bookshops, the usual technology shops. There's a cinema up as well, actually. I've just passed it here, this cinema here. And there are a couple of cinemas in Kifissia which are very well known in Athens, outdoor cinemas, very historic, been here since the late 50s or early 60s. If you ever have a chance when you're in Athens to experience an outdoor cinema and you've never done so, I highly recommend it. Obviously they only work at night, but very well worth it. It's a real experience to watch a film outdoors. I watched the film Armageddon with Bruce Willis outdoors when it came out here in Athens, and it just made the thing magical because it's set in space and you have all the stars above you. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my little look at Kifissia. I would highly recommend, if you're visiting Athens, if you want to get out of central Athens, that you come down, or up, because it's technically up, to Kifissia. As I said, 15 kilometres from the centre of Athens, half an hour on the metro, very easy, probably about 25 euros in a taxi. And you'll experience a side of Athens that most tourists won't, and it's a real side of Athens. In the end, yes, the centre of Athens is fabulous. It's why you come to Greece, along with the islands and beaches and the people. But it's not necessarily what I would call absolutely real Athens. This is real Athens. It's a little bit pretentious, perhaps, for some people, but I love it, and I think you will too. So I hope you've enjoyed this little look, and please subscribe and look at some of my other videos, because I have a lot of videos on Greece, and I'm also going to do some now in the UK. Hope to see you soon. Thank you.